Yo, what's good, everybody? Today we're jumping into some top meta TTK loadouts. These are going to be guns that you guys are going to be able to use to have an incredibly fast TTK. It's not like they're going to be the quote-unquote most meta guns out there to use, because some of these guns out there that have a really fast TTK aren't as totally viable as some of the other guns out there, just due to handling characteristics and just a variety of different factors. But you guys will be able to see here within the video, we got some real good guns that have awesome TTKs, so you guys should definitely enjoy it. If you guys do, make sure you give it a like, subscribe, those notifications turned on, and that being said, let's jump into it. All right, so jump us here. We're going to be taking a look at first gun here today is going to be the Odin. So the Odin is one of those guns that has a pretty solid TTK, but people just don't use it all that often via just a couple of reasons, like some handling characteristics and mobility, so on and so forth. But let's give you guys a build for it that's going to maximize that TTK potential and of course be pretty viable. So first thing in the muzzle category is of course going to be the Colossus suppressor, not the monolithic suppressor. This is actually going to help out here quite a bit because it does have some recoil. We need to be able to minimize that as much as possible. It's not going to have a huge magazine, so of course the more shots you can hit, obviously the better. That's gonna help out the TTK kind of regardless, but the Colossus suppressor is gonna be the way to go for this one. In the barrel section, I do end up using what is the largest barrel in here, which is actually the Odin Factory 810mm barrel for damage range, bullet velocity, course, and recoil control. This is, like I said, not gonna be a super fast, ADS gun, but you're gonna be able to take people out very quickly. Now in the underbarrel section, we're gonna use the Commando foregrip here. This can help out that recoil stabilization and pretty much all the above. I wouldn't recommend anything else because you're gonna be slowing this gun down way too much to really make it viable if you start using other underbarrels. Now the magazine, we have to add this on here. We're gonna go for the maximum, which is the 30-round magazine. I almost wish that they'd make this gun a little bit more agile, of course, and also give it a bigger magazine size. That'd probably bring the Odin into like a top tier meta slot, but just because the magazine size, that's kind of a bit of a downfall here. But that seems to be kind of like a reoccurring theme with fast TTK guns. They don't have a crazy magazine size. And then for our last option here in the optic section, we're gonna go throw in the Corp Combat Hollow sight, or you guys could potentially throw on something like the VLK 3x optic. It's just a little bit up to you guys. You can switch back and forth to see kind of what works out well for you. But for me, I'm going to stick with the Corp Combat Hollow just because this thing is going to have some recoil, and I don't really want to use this for super long range. So this is going to be like a medium range gun for me to use. This is a really solid one. Definitely give it a shot if you guys enjoy this build. If you haven't already, make sure you guys drop it a like, and let's move on to the next one. Next up, we're going to take a look at the Vargo 52. This is a gun that I think is criminally slept on in terms of its overall usability. It's incredibly useful. It's got a solid TTK, and of course the ADS speed is pretty good. It's got a very easy to control recoil pattern. They did try to nerf it a little bit here, but let's give you guys a setup for it. And by the way, this is like the glitched blueprint. I had the ferrofluid, but they removed the ferrofluid, so I don't have that anymore, and this is kind of what I have in place of it. And you only have this because of having the ferrofluid in the first place, which is a little bit weird. So this is kind of a bit of a glitch unlock. I don't really get it. But anyways, muzzle category, Grew suppressor. Like always, we're trying to use this for pretty much all of our Cold War ARs. No reason to run the regular suppressor. It does not make any sense. In the barrel section, we're going to go through on the 18.6 Task Force barrel for that bullet velocity, horizontal, vertical, and of course that effective damage range. This can be hugely beneficial. Highly recommend the Task Force on this gun over anything else. Now in the underbarrel section, we're going to go through on the Spetsnaz grip here for the horizontal and vertical recoil control. I definitely recommend this one over anything else. No reason to run another grip in here. In the magazine section though, we're going to go through on the Spetsnaz 60 round magazine. I absolutely love the Spetsnaz 60 on this thing just because that increased fire rate, or like a pretty high fire rate, and having very little recoil, you're going to be able to hit a lot of shots on targets. Plus actually helping that TTK. It's a lot more of a practical one as opposed to just on the stat sheet, you know what I'm saying? But we're gonna throw that on there. And then of course in the optics section, we go through on the Axle Arms 3x, as this gun is 100% a really good, medium to longer range AR that you guys can be able to hit a lot of shots with, and I'd recommend to use this gun just pretty much in general anyway. So absolutely, the Vargo, super good. I don't really know what's going on with the blueprint. That's a little bit weird, but hope you guys enjoy this build. Definitely try it out. Next up, I got to give you guys a build here for the Owen gun. So we have a new and improved Owen setup. I've kind of talked about it here previously in a couple videos. So if you guys know this one, it is what it is, but this is a very good TTK gun. And of course, it's got a massive magazine. So it's pretty much like your #1 go-to SMG in the entirety of Warzone right now. So muzzle category, first thing on here gonna be that recoil booster. Got to throw that on there. In the barrel section, this is where it gets interesting. We're not going to use a barrel at all. So none of these in here are going to be really good to use. I've used, obviously all of them. I tried them all out, but within the most recent update, they nerfed my go-to barrel, which is the rapid barrel. And then since I took it off there, I've been having a different build with it, and it's really a lot better without any barrel at all. So in the underbarrel section, since we don't need to control that recoil as much, I would normally have gone for the hand stop. We're going to go for the Mark VI Skeletal, which is going to help us with our ADS speed, and the recoil is going to be unbelievably manageable. So I would just say to, you know, benefit yourself in terms of ADS and not as much in terms of, you know, the hip fire, not as much in the recoil and accuracy. You lose a little bit of hip fire, but that's okay. But you guys can run pretty much either or, but for me, I would go with the Skeletal. In the magazine section, though, we're going to run the 7.62 Gorenko. We've been running this here for a while now, and it's not changing anytime soon. I have seen people run the 8mm Curse 60, and that's like their new go-to. But for me personally, I don't think it's be all that great, and I just go with the Gorenko, and I've been dominating with it. Ammunition side of things, we're going to, of course, run with lengthened here for the increase in bullet velocity. In the rear grip section here, we're going to throw on leather grip for the ADS speed and aiming stability. I have ran fabric, but I start noticing that decrease in accuracy, and I'm not too big of a fan of that. I'd much rather run the leather grip here and have pretty much no cons at all. Well, basically no cons. In the optic section, we're going to go through on the slate reflector here. I was running the Night Arm Model 47, but for me, I just feel like running the slate reflector has been working a little bit better recently. It comes down to personal preference, though. It's not like one's going to be better than the other. It just comes down to what do you prefer to look through when you're using this gun. Now in the stock, we're going to go through on the remove stock here like usual. We've been running this for a while now. And then of course down in our perk section, our first one we have acrobatic here to increase our overall movement speed and sprinting move speed. And then down in perk 2 we have quick, which is once again going to increase our sprint speed. So this is my full build here for this thing. Love this. Definitely give it a shot. It's pretty much my go-to SMG right now in the entirety of Warzone. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at the STG. This is another top tier AR you guys should be using. So let's jump into it here. First thing, muzzle category, MX silencer. We're running the MX silencer. And by the way, this is the Godzilla variant of the gun, just in case any of you guys are wondering. But we're running the MX silencer on this thing. In the barrel, we're going to go through on the VDD 760mm 05B barrel. The best one out there for you guys to run on this gun by far. In the underbarrel section, we're going to go throw on, where is it at? The M1941 hand stop. I was kind of glancing over it, but we're going to hand stop on this bad boy, and that's just like the way to go for this thing. Magazine, we're going to go through on the 7.62 Gorenko 50 round mag. I was running this a little bit before they did a patch update, but they buffed it here in the most recent patch, and it's unbelievably good, and it's got literally like no recoil, so I'd recommend for you guys to use this. In the ammunition side of things, though, we're going to go through on lengthened here to increase that bullet velocity. It's really solid, and I recommend for you to run lengthened on all of your ARs exclusively. In the rear grip section here, we're going to go through on polymer grip here for flinch resistance and accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. This gun has a bit of a tendency to kind of get hit flinched a decent bit, and so I'd recommend for you guys to run the polymer here just to kind of negate any of that effect. Now in the optic section, we're gonna go through on the G16 2.5x, and that's gonna be really good. It's my go-to optic on all these Vanguard ARs. In the stock section, though, we're gonna go through on the VDD 34S weighted. This is gonna be really solid. You guys could definitely get away with the precision here if you guys really want to. For me personally, I've gone back and forth between the two, but it kind of comes down to what's my perk. If I'm using Vital, I'm not gonna run the precision. I'm gonna go with the weighted. But if I'm not running Vital and I run something like maybe brace or whatever it is, I'll run precision. So it's kind of up to you guys. In the perk section here, like talking about, you know, just kind of relating back to what I was talking about here, I always run focus if I'm running this stock, or if I'm not running this stock and run the other one, I run vital, just because this is going to negatively affect your recoil control and accuracy, and it will be more noticeable on this gun with this specific stock. So I mean, let's say you can run vital and then the other stock, or you can run focus in this stock. It's up to you guys, but for instance, let's throw on vital. Now in the perk 2 here, we're going to go through on fully loaded as our last thing on this gun. There's nothing else in here that's really going to be that beneficial. It just doesn't make sense to use anything else. So this is going to be my full build here for the STG Breath of Godzilla. This is a really good gun, really cool variant, by the way, and it's got a lot of great attachments on it. So definitely, if you haven't bought it, this is one of those ones I'd recommend buying. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at the tried and true XM4. This is a gun that I think a lot of people maybe don't use just because it has some recoil. I sometimes get comments in my comment section, be like, hey Chuck, like, we know you got a Cronus, you got DS4, you got something like that that's helping you with your recoil. It's like, my XM4 doesn't do that. It's like, no fellas, it's pretty simple. We pull down on the joystick, like that's it, pull down. And so I mean, that's the thing that keeps people from using this gun, is genuinely just the recoil. So anyways, agency suppressor here, we're running this always. In the barrel section, 13.5 task force. I mean, I'm outfitting this to give it the least amount of recoil possible, but you're still gonna have to pull down on this thing. It's not like a literal laser beam like the Grau 5.56 or something like that. And then in the underbarrel section, we're gonna go through on the field edge and grip here for horizontal and vertical recoil control. And then down in the magazine, we're gonna go through on the Synag 60. Absolutely love this than X60, really good, and I do believe the 60 is better than the 45 in this gun, just because I can take out more than like maybe 2 people. I can sometimes even take out a full squad with 60 rounds in my magazine if I'm really careful and I hit those people. It doesn't happen very often, but you know, sometimes you can do that. And then in the optic section, of course, the Axle Arms 3 times. This is just the best optic for these Cold War ARs. No reason to use anything else, not even something like the Susat multi-zoom, which I think people were trying to use there for a while. Not worth it. Stick with the Axle Arms, call it a day. And this is going to be the full white rapid variant, by the way, with diamond camo on, in case any of you guys are wondering. This is my XM4 build. Hope you all enjoy this one. Definitely use it. It's really good. All right, next up, I couldn't make a TTK video without showing you guys something about the AS Val. So the AS Val is one of those guns that, I mean, it would literally take over Warzone if it had a bigger magazine size, but because it doesn't, it does not take over Warzone. So I guess that's kind of to blame on this. Thing was broken at one point. You could use that 10-round mag to like literally shoot through any wall in Warzone and pubs. It was kind of ridiculous. I don't know how many of you guys remember that one, but anyways, let's hop into this here. We're going to throw on that VLK 200mm OSA barrel. This is kind of what we've been running here for a while now, so I'd recommend for you guys to run this. In the underbarrel section, this is kind of where it gets down to a little bit personal preference. You can run the Merc foregrip if you feel like it's going to bounce around too much, but for me personally, I run the Commando foregrip on this thing just because the Merc slows me down, and I run this as a secondary. Even though it is indeed an assault rifle, nobody uses it as a true assault rifle. It's just not really possible the way this thing is built. It just really isn't. So you guys have to run this as a secondary. So Commando or Merc foregrip, up to you, but you know, either or is going to work. Now in the magazine, obviously we got to throw on the 30-round mag. There's no real ifs, ands, or buts about this. You just kind of have to run it. So just go ahead and do that. In the rear grip section here, I like to throw in a rear grip, or you can throw in a laser, and it's just kind of up to you. But you can either roll something maybe like the 5MW laser and the hip fire accuracy and the sprint to fire speed. That's gonna be really good. Or you could throw on maybe something like a stipple grip tape, and that's gonna be pretty solid. But this one's not gonna mess with any of your aiming stability, so that's definitely probably more of a benefit over the stipple grip tape, which will definitely mess with your aiming stability ever so slightly. So for right now, we're gonna throw on the 5MW laser. And then for the last thing in here, we're gonna go down to the perk section, and I'm actually gonna throw on sleight of hand. The reason we're throwing on sleight of hand here is just because it's got a 30-round mag, and having 30 rounds is not really all that ideal, so we got to be able to reload as fast as humanly possible. And having sleight of hand on here is going to be kind of a necessity, so I'd recommend this sleight of hand on this. And of course, I do that pretty much like for the Modern Warfare MP5 when I build that out. I run sleight of hand on that too, but definitely give the AS Val a shot. By the way, this is a CDL camo. You can no longer equip anymore. I just happen to have this as a variant saved. That's the only reason I have this. Otherwise, I definitely have a different camo on here. This is really not all that good. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Actually, for our last gun here today, we're gonna throw on the Fennec. So this is a really solid gun that I think a lot of people don't really use. It's kind of overlooked, but let's give you guys a really crazy build for this thing. I covered this a while back in a specific video, and I had a lot of fun using it. I'm definitely gonna probably go use it again here more, you know, in a future video. But it's real good, so let's hop in this. We're gonna skip over the muzzle, go straight to the barrel, because we're gonna use the ZLR-18 Deadfall, which is your integral mono suppressor along kind of with a barrel. So it's gonna give you that damage range, recoil control, bullet velocity, and sound suppression. I'd recommend this. It's kind of like a little 2-for-1 type of deal. Instead of having to use a barrel and a muzzle, it's just not really worth it to kind of do that on this specific gun here. Also, because the reload speed on this thing is a little bit chalked. After that, we're gonna skip the underbarrel section, go straight to the magazine. We're gonna throw on the 40-round drum mag. This is really solid, and I'd recommend for you guys to like throw this on here. Don't ever mess with this. I don't know whoever was thinking this was going to be viable. I don't know why they spent the time to even make this magazine. Nobody uses it. It's not good. So throw on the 40-round drum. After that, we're gonna go down to the rear grip section here, and I'm gonna throw on stipple grip tape here for ADS speed and sprint to fire. I don't really notice too much in terms of aiming stability as a con, just because this thing doesn't have all that much recoil for its fire rate, which is a little bit kind of ridiculous. But it's really good. And if you guys want to, you can switch this out maybe for like a laser, like a 5MW, something like that, and that will do relatively the same thing without causing any aiming stability issues. Now in the stock section, we go for the no stock here for that maximum movement speed and ADS speed. Really like the no stock on this gun. It makes it a lot more competitive with these Cold War and Vanguard SMGs that have, you know, obviously better attachments or more attachments in general. And then for our last thing here in the perk section, we're gonna go throw on sleight of hand, just because, like I said, the reload speed is a little bit chalked, and this is kind of what you have to combat for. So this is my full build here for this thing. Absolutely love the Fennec, super good. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all later. Just remember, Cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.